It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses of all ages, welcome to the show. It is Monday, August 17th, 2026, and it is time to get nerdy. Welcome to episode 387 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the multiverse. I am one of your hosts, Mack, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Nice Guy 425, also known as Mr. Lam Galuka. You may know him as a stand-up comedian. I know him as a stand-up guy and a stand-up comedian. And today we're going to talk about video games, as it covers all sorts of topics, from news to history to trivia to lawsuits and everything in between. But first, Mr. Nice Guy, it's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to get together. How the heck are ya?
Dude, life is so good, man. Getting ready for some fun adventures. I'm the type that doesn't talk about them till after they happen. I'll tell you off air, but suffice it to say, excited to go see some new places and do some new things. And I know I'm being very elusive and sneaky and secretive, but we'll talk about it when it's over with, audience. You know how we operate here at Two Nerds. But things are good, man. Had some friends over this weekend, smoked some ribs on the RecTech smoker. Shout out to RecTech if you want to sponsor the pod. I've been using your thing for 8 years, and it's still kicking. That smoker's still going. So wowed them. And one of the people who had the ribs was like, I think you could give these to Gordon Ramsay and not be embarrassed by them, which is a very high compliment if you know who Gordon Ramsay is, right?
I do. I am familiar with Gordon Ramsay. He struggles making grilled cheese sandwiches, as I recall.
He struggles being a kind human being, although I think that some of that, I think a lot of that is just for the camera, right? Let's be real here.
Persona. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So, but no, Mac, things are good. Been playing games, been doing all the things, swimming, enjoying summer. What's new with you, buddy?
Dude, the past couple of weeks have just kind of been relaxing. Took a little trip, and then while I was out and about, got myself a new vehicle, which was fun.
What?
Yeah. I
love it.
I picked up a Gen 2 Toyota Prius.
Ooh.
So I guess my transformation is complete. I'm now a true Oregonian now that I have a Toyota Prius.
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, that is definitely an Oregonian type of thing. Love it though. Love it.
It first kind of got on my radar for two reasons. One, every kind of like taxi cab around here is a Generation 2 Prius, and they've got like 400,000 miles or something crazy like that on them, and they're still kicking. And so like Generation 2 is like 2004 to 2008 or right in there. And the other one is that I watched this video several months back from Technology Connections on how hybrid engines work in vehicles.
Sure.
And I had kind of always assumed that they were prone to failure because, of course, they'd have to be, all the electronics and all those things. But apparently they are, like, rock solid. And once he, like, did that video, and then I started seeing the Priuses around, and then was like, I got a cab ride, and I was just like, hey, this is a Prius, right? I was like, how many miles you got? He's just like, oh, like 400,000. I'm expecting to get another 300,000 out of it. I'm like, dude.
How much do you want for it?
Well, I mean, ideally, I'd love something with a few less miles than what he had.
Sure.
Which I did manage to grab. So anyway, feeling pretty excited about this last week especially. That's kind of my big news. When you get old, like me, Mr. Nice Guy, you gotta savor the little things, like a new used vehicle.
Well, now all it needs is like some super opinionated West Coast style bumper stickers, and you'll be good to go, right? I remember when we
need to get me some video games or art bumper stickers.
Yes.
And if buying isn't owning, piracy isn't stealing, I'll throw that on the back too.
Yes, exactly. Love it, man. Well, hey, on that note, I'm excited for your new car. I'm excited to come see it at some point when we have a weekend out there. But right now, it's time to get into the gaming news. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Dude, what is new in video gaming?
So much. And our top of the show story is one that I hope you haven't heard, because I think you're really going to like it. And welcome to episode 387 of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. Excited for episode 387. It's a go. Mac, this is one that I'm so hoping you haven't heard this, but if you have, it's all good. This is from techeblog.com by Bill Smith. Here's what Bill writes. Justin Ross has given Mega Man fans something they have waited years to play again. Mega Man X Regenesis launched today as a free download, and the finished product lands closer to Capcom's classic 16-bit entries than most people expected from a solo passion project. You find yourself in a universe where the timeline has taken a dark turn. Beginning shortly after the original Mega Man X, Sigma has done the unthinkable. X has vanished, and humanity is on the verge of destruction. Dr. Kane's last-ditch effort, Project Regenesis, begins, offering X a second chance to turn the tables and defeat the Mavericks, who now control the situation. Mac, I watched some video of this game. It's a free download, and it plays on the Steam Deck. I have not played it yet, but I am so excited to download it before it gets taken down, which may or may not happen. But Mac, to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but let's go through the bullet points here. Mega Man, free, download, solo passion project. What do you think, man?
Every single component of this, yes, and more yes. Yes, and this is real exciting, dude. I mean, obviously, I'm very much classic Mega Man. For those of you who are watching, who are listening, I am holding up, a classic Mega Man here. But I enjoy Mega Man X. I've got the X Legacy collection, have played through that, have played through a few other things, even something like Mega Man X Dive I spent some time playing through.
Sure.
I appreciate the X series. But yeah, Regenesis sounds absolutely delightful.
And it looks really good, too. And like I said, I watched some video of it. No need for a playable demo because it literally is a free, full playable game. And, once I play this, just because I really like to support people who do this kind of stuff, if he has a donate button, I'll throw him a few bucks, right? I love more and more, Mac, as we get into studio closures, as we get into challenges with game development, the idea of solo devs putting these types of things out, not for money, but for the love of the game. And I think we're going to have that as a theme today throughout some of the other stories that I'll share. So shout out to, I believe his name is Mr. Ross, for putting this out, and go download it if this is your thing. Yeah. All right, moving on, Mac. We're moving to this all digital world. It's kind of crazy, but that's the direction that we're going. And according to this new story, there's a new way to buy video games. This is on IGN.com, written by, it actually just says by IGN Global Studios. Here's the story. DoorDash has added the ability to buy digital video games through the app alongside physical games, consoles, gaming accessories, and discounted gift cards for services like Xbox and Roblox. The snacks and drinks, by the way, Mac. So now you can get all your game night essentials in one place, as Dash Pass members also get additional perks. To celebrate the launch, customers who spend $50 or more on a digital game can earn a free DoorDash e-gift card. Through August 31st, eligible Dash Pass members receive $25 and eligible non-Dash Pass members receive $10. For the remainder of the year, eligible Dash Pass, how many times can I say Dash Pass in a story? Members receive $15 and eligible, I'm not going to read all this. You get some money. You get some money if you're in Dash Pass member. So, Mac, this is interesting to me. The argument in this story is that life is busy enough, which is why convenience is king. So now in one app, you can buy a digital game while also ordering a new headset and getting some food and drinks to complete your game night. Is this something that is actually going to expand the game industry? I know we're talking hypothetical here. Sometimes there are changes where we're like, oh, this is going to bring new people into the fold. Like, this is like Wii Sports, right? This is going to bring in casual people. But I don't feel, in my opinion, I don't feel like this is a level of convenience that we don't have other places. What do you think? DoorDash digital games, needed, unneeded? What effect will it have?
I mean, I suspect it'll have almost no effect in my life, being that I don't think anybody DoorDashes out here to the middle of nowhere. I'm sure that some people will find it useful, but I would be very shocked if it saw any type of adaptation or adoption, rather, by more than a handful of people. I just don't know how many people are door dashing for their game nights. Maybe it's happening a lot. Dude, you live in a much more metropolitan environment than I do. How frequently do you DoorDash?
Like almost never.
And I mean, maybe we're just oldie McOldersons, but like, everybody I know has either DoorDashed once in their life or basically never.
Well, and that's my thing. Like if I'm in a strange city and I don't really want to go hunt for stuff, then I'll maybe DoorDash, right? But like okay. The premise of like hashtag baller on a budget, we talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm. It is the philosophy of this show.
It is. We need to get it on a t-shirt, on a koozie, on all types of merch.
On a bumper sticker on the back of a Toyota Prius.
Back of the Gen 2 Prius. I love it, Mac.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to pay such markup for things that can be so easily accessed. The delivery fee and then the extra tax for using the service. It's just, you end up paying like 3 or 4 times what you'd pay if you just got up and went and got it, right? For those who don't otherwise have a way to get digital games, which I don't think is anyone, because most people, there's probably a pretty big overlap between DoorDash people and Amazon people, between DoorDash people and people who have access to the eShop or the PlayStation Store or the Xbox. It's fine. But you know what? DoorDash will profit from this, and it makes gaming maybe 0.001% bigger than it was. I'm all for it, right?
Maybe. I mean, Ishmobile says that he would never buy a video game via DoorDash. It seems like a weird choice to me, he says. I also don't buy movie popcorn at Blockbuster, though.
That's fair. I don't either. So here's some of the games, just to give people an idea. And this is interesting to me. EA Sports FC 26, Call of Duty Black Ops 7, Pokemon Pokopia, and also Mac Super Mario Galaxy 2. One of the digital games that is available. So it's not just new stuff. It's more like retro Super Mario Galaxy 2, like several years old. So I think that is cool. And I applaud them for getting a diverse library of games and for somehow being able to negotiate with Nintendo to get that game. That's big to me, that they would get that digitally. Maybe there's a future in it.
Maybe so.
Mac and friends, one more news story for the news today. I hope y'all heard the story about that Mega Man X game. I'm hyped for it. Mac, like I said, there's reasons that we game. I do it for the love of the game, and it's cool to see others doing it for the love of the game as well. This is just a feel-good story. IGN.com, written by Ryan McCaffrey. TikTok streamer Jay Lucarelli tried for nearly 2,000 attempts over the course of a week to throw a perfect game with now retired Astros pitcher Ray Oswalt in MVP Baseball 2005, the classic pro baseball sim, and the last one ever made by EA. On attempt number 1,993, Lucarelli finally did it. The final out came on a line drive comebacker to Oswalt, retiring then Red Sox catcher Doug Mirabelli after he threw a blah, 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 right? What makes this story interesting to me is throwing a no-hitter in baseball, a huge deal. Doing it in a video game, probably even harder, because maybe as you get closer, the NPCs, the AI works a little bit more against you to make it harder to do.
Like rubber banding in racing games.
Perfect analogy, right? Somehow in Mario Kart, people just catch up to you, even though they're going the same speed and there's a huge distance between you, right? A lot of times I think when people game and when they stream, they're doing it for money, which there's nothing wrong with that. They're doing it to get an achievement. They're doing it for going viral. They're doing it for notoriety. Yes, he got some recognition for this, but I just think it's cool that he's so passionate about doing something in a game that he worked so hard to achieve it and then did. And it reminded me why I play video games, which is really just for fun, for the love of the game, to go do things that challenge me and to veg after work. So, Mac, my question to you and question to the chat, has there ever been like an achievement or a feat that you have set as a goal that wasn't for notoriety, but was just something super important to you that you were able to achieve and that made you feel good afterwards in gaming?
Man, great question. I will answer with the first one that hops to mind, and that is getting all the strawberries in Celeste.
Yes.
I mean, there is an achievement for it, but I very much felt an insane sense of accomplishment. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Getting 120 stars in Mario 64 And those last couple of stars.
How do you have like a prop for all of these answers to questions that you did not know I was going to ask?
So I actually, of course, I make the Perlers. Those of you who are listening after the fact, maybe you've heard it before. But I made my own little trophies, my own little achievements for a couple of these, and I just so happened to have them close to hand here in my little, in my office. So yeah, but no, the 120 stars from Mario 64, that was a big one for me. What about you, dude?
Yeah, that's a good one. So one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite platformers, and my favorite Super Nintendo game of all time is Donkey Kong Country 2. And so playing that game and collecting all 75 DK coins, similar to your collecting the strawberries in Celeste, one for me that was a huge, huge achievement. And there were no achievements back then, right? You just did stuff because it was fun. And yes, you opened up extra worlds by being able to collect those coins. But that for me was a huge one. DKC2, 75 DK coins. And Mac, on that note, my friend, that has been our news of the week.
Nice guy, thanks for bringing me up to speed to today. I'm going to ruin all of that momentum and take us right back into the past. Let's do some video game history. I want to start with a release in 2017, this past couple of weeks, the Mega Man Legacy 2 collection that was put out by Capcom. My personal opinion on it is that it's fine. It was more of a cash grab than anything else because the first Mega Man Legacy Collection done by Digital Eclipse was solid, beautifully implemented. The emulation was perfect. It was on point. They really did a good job and put together a great, great collection. And then Capcom was just like, oh my gosh, they sold tons of that. Well, we can do that. And then they put out the Legacy Collection 2, which had Mega Man's 7, 8, 9, and 10 on it, the rest of the classic series. But like so many of those games had additional lag because the program wasn't especially well optimized. Speedrunners were just like losing tons of frames and tons of time because it couldn't keep up. Something that as a casual player you might not notice, but was not at all present in the previous ones. So 2017, an example of a port done not right, frankly. But let's move on to some excellent things, some things that have aged super well, or, well, we'll see. 2008, released for the Xbox 360, a little game called Braid. It was one of the, I guess you'd say, the games that ushered in the sort of indie game revival of the late 2000s that we really got because of I'm going to say it, because of the Xbox Live Arcade.
100%.
That greater ability that Microsoft brought for people to bring their smaller indie experiences to market in a big way really gave us a greater appreciation or a reappreciation for indie games that I'm really glad happened. For all the things that Microsoft kind of screwed up in the Xbox days, and including but not limited to, Microsoft paid some games to not release on Windows because they didn't want the competition between having to choose a game for Windows or a game for the on the Xbox platform, which is bonkers to me.
That's really interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
They've totally came the opposite direction
100%.
around, but there are still a bunch of games today that were released in the mid to late 2000s that you can't get on, PC because a condition of that contract was that they were never done for PC. And until there's some sort of thing that comes up later, anyway, I can't go down that road because I've got something else interesting. Unless, Mr. Nice Guy, you had any memories you wanted to offer on Braid?
No, you summarized it well. I did play Braid. It was very revolutionary at the time. The ability to rewind and go fix your stuff, but the whole concept of them switching stance, going from you don't want this on PC to being like now we actually want it more on PC than we do on the box. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting how history rhymes sometimes. But flashing forward just a little bit, in 2013, released for the PC and Mac in early August, we had a game called Papers, Please. This would have been Lucas Pope's first game. Now, I do cite Lucas Pope's second game, Return of the Obra Dinn, as perhaps among the greatest games ever made, and I do think it stands for the proposition that video games are art in a way that is both approachable and uniquely video game. Will always push for Return of the Obra Dinn. Papers, Please, I think is also very important, but in a completely different way. Before I get too much into it, nice guy, have you ever tried Papers, Please?
I've never tried that, so I'm excited to hear more. I've heard of it.
All right, so it is at heart a sort of simulation/puzzle game. And it's an incredibly deep experience, puzzling in a whole multitude of ways. And it sounds super boring, so don't go running screaming for the exits. But in this, you are a border-crossing agent in a country that is descending into fascism. And throughout the game, you are deciding whether or not people get into this country or out of, whether people freely travel through this, deciding based on like the directives you've been given. You are paid at the end of the day based on how many people get admitted with or without issues, if you make any mistakes, and the requirements for immigration through here become stricter and more ridiculous, piling on new requirements each and every day. But I think most importantly, the feeling of having to decide whether or not your family gets food or heat, because at the end of each day, you've got to allocate the money that you got from your day working as a border crossing agent into, what are we going to do? We gonna eat, or are we going to be warm? And that also implements this sort of side mechanic of people are always trying to bribe you to get in and get through there. And it's like, I'm not going to make enough money to make this happen. Do I take that bribe? It's very interesting. Doing what you can to not get dinged for making mistakes, and dealing with a broken bureaucracy that changes the rules on a daily basis. That's the game, and it is both simple and very complex. It is both a little exciting and also slightly terrifying as you play it. And Lucas Pope is a video game artist in a way that I think so few people can really stick the landing on. You don't read about the bureaucratic horrors in the game. You're the one enacting them. You kind of feel the weight of being a cog in the machine. And the game is an exercise in human empathy that is always needed, but I feel like is desperately needed today. Which is why I find the game so impactful. Probably one of the more important pieces of art that has been produced as a video game. I put this out there. If you haven't played the game and you don't have a copy, I will buy you one. And that's not just an offer for you, Mr. Nice Guy. That's an offer for you who are here with us live, or you who are listening. Reach out. I'll have to eventually say, sorry, I can't buy one for everybody. But it is so good, so important. I am willing to shell out in order to get some people. You promise you will experience this game, I'll get you a copy. I'll try, because I think it's that important.
It's interesting, dude. Like, I hope you don't mind me like hijacking and getting on a soapbox for a second. So,
please.
As I've been reading different books, Red Rising series, some Brandon Sanderson, and just different things where there's conflict and war and different things, you just realize how much empathy is needed.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound cliche or corny, but I was literally thinking about this today. As we've had conflict with other countries recently, as the U.S., there will be a generation of people that will ask their grandparents what it was like to go through war. People in the U.S. will tell their grandkids, oh, it was really tough. Our gas prices went up. People in other countries will say, we were scared for our lives, right? Like we were being bombed. Like, we didn't know if we were going to live or die. And that dichotomy, like that difference, is something that more people need to realize. And I think that games like what you just talked about help people to realize that dichotomy.
Yeah, there are a couple. There's even one upcoming that I'm looking forward to. Looking forward to it in the sense that I think it is also going to be kind of horrific. That is really hanging a lantern. Is done by some of the Black Ops 6 devs, or maybe I got that name wrong, but some people who worked on the Black Ops series of games. That is about this sort of gamification of war. In the stuff,
Yeah.
I believe it's called War Fantasy, I think is the name of it. It hasn't come out yet, but there is a way that video games can tell a story in a unique way that no other media really can. And I thoroughly appreciate games that, even if it's not my particular cup of tea, I appreciate games that try to make a statement with the art. And 100%, Mr. Nice Guy. 100% agreed.
We do disagree sometimes, but there's certain human rights things that we're pretty much always going to agree on, audience. So that's kind of how it works. All right. Well, Mac, thank you for that. And it's interesting because it's going to seem like we're being super political today, but hey, it's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. It is time for Topic of the Week, a segment in gaming where we talk about something relevant and give our opinions on it. And Mac, this kind of ties into what you were just talking about. We don't plan all this in advance.
No.
We get together and we riff. I find my stuff, he finds his. This week's story comes from GameInformer.com, written by Wesley LeBlanc. Here is what Wesley writes. Warner Brothers Interactive has confirmed that a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, the 2023 Harry Potter game that has sold more than 22 million copies, is in development in its latest financial earnings report. The company refers to it as a second installment of Hogwarts Legacy, stopping short of giving it an official title. Developer Avalanche, which made the first game, is presumably the primary studio behind the sequel. I want to scroll down here.
Now, while you're scrolling down, I will just throw out there, I seem to recall that Avalanche was one of the studios that cut a big chunk of their workforce either this year or in 2024. I wonder how much of an impact that's going to make on them working on the sequel.
That's a good question, and I don't know. I don't remember that about them. So that's an interesting side point for us to discuss. The article goes on to say Hogwarts Legacy was a top trending game search in Google in 2023. Despite the excitement the game garnered from fans, it also courted controversy due to Harry Potter series author J.K. Rowling's inflammatory statements and actions towards and about the trans community. In 2019, Rowling began to reveal her anti-trans sentiment, expressing support for a tax specialist who made anti-trans tweets, as noted by GLAAD. In the years since, her support for anti-trans groups and anti-trans lawmaking has continued and been amplified, funded by her Harry Potter earnings. She has even created an organization dedicated to removing trans people's rights in the workplace and public life and in protected female spaces, according to Advocates reporting. We're going to stop there. Mac, we talk a lot on this podcast about voting with your wallet. And
which people clearly did, being that it was one of the top best-selling games of its release year, which Galvatron, thanks for mentioning that in the chat.
Yeah, 22 million copies is nothing small. Like, that's huge. And the fact that it's getting a sequel. So Mac does, because this caused a huge controversy. People were saying, don't buy the game, boycott it, blah, blah, blah. I'll talk about my stances in a little bit and the action that I took or didn't take. But I'm curious, do you think that these types of boycotts, these types of stands really make a difference? Given that we're seeing a sequel, given that 22 million copies sold, should we just stop caring? I know that sounds such a cliche softball question, but honestly, what are your thoughts? Chat, what are your thoughts?
Look, real talk, there is very little any individual can do in order to, make something like that not happen, take a principled stand. It's incredibly hard. I like to say that, the entire economy is the same three companies in a trench coat. Go to the store. If you didn't want to say, buy Taylor Farms salad because of the cyclospora, you might shift over to another brand name. Whoops,
Yes.
it's still Taylor Farms.
Yes.
You might think that, General Mills is being jerks about something, and you might not want to buy General Mills cereal, so you shift over to something else. Surprise, it's owned by the same company. You're still paying them no matter what.
Right.
It is hard, and there are some things that are just like video games aren't fungible, They're not something that one-to-one perfectly translate. Each of these are artistic expressions, even coming from, a company you might not want to support for what they're doing, but it is an artistic expression that can't be perfectly substituted. Any piece of art can't be perfectly substituted, and it's a real shame because you have to decide for yourself what is, where is, what will, and follow those as best as you can. And so, is it useless? I don't think it's useless, but am I convinced of the ability to make them backtrack on something by having a boycott? And historically, that hasn't worked so well in the past. And I think there are absolutely things that you can do that are both legal and moral in order to make changes and make things happen in a way that push us toward the type of future you want to see and the type of future that we feel like everybody deserves. But I just don't think boycotts are as effective of a method. Just this guy's take.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll say my stance, and then I think we should read some of these comments in the chat. Mac, if you see a couple that maybe stand out, I'm trying to scroll on my phone at the same time as talk. So I consider myself, first of all, I'm a straight male, wife, kids. I consider myself to be an ally for the LGBTQ community, right? Mac hit on a really, really important point, which I'm not even going to get into separating the art from the artist. I feel like J.K. Rowling's opinions are asinine in that regard. But I have several kids who really like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Politics aside that they're oblivious to, they just like Harry Potter, right? They like the game, the worlds rather. Candidly, there's a lot of inclusivity in Harry Potter. And there's some lessons that can be learned. And so when this game came out, I remember taking my son and we went to stores to try to find a physical copy. And we went to one store and they didn't have it. And then we went to Best Buy and they had it. And he was so excited, oblivious to the fact that one of the people who works on this game, who created it actually, I should say, is not a good person in terms of her opinions. But guess what, Mac? I also read an article at the time this came out about a trans person who was working on the game. In a way, yes, we're supporting J.K. Rowling. We're also supporting all of the individuals who worked on the game who are good people. If I said today that I'm not going to eat at Chick-fil-A because they, at the top, have views that I disagree with, every single restaurant is going to have someone who has views I disagree with. And I'm also supporting the little people by eating there. So it's hard to ever find an organization, a game, anything that's going to completely align with what you believe.
I think it's impossible to cut everybody out of your purchasing power with whom you disagree. I think you can choose to cut maybe one out.
Sure.
It doesn't take too much. It doesn't take too much to cut one billionaire out of your pocketbook. It might not be possible to cut all of them, but you can possibly cut one. And so maybe you should pick which one you're gonna hurt. And but boycotts, we really struggle to get boycotts to work without alternatives. I think is the idea I didn't really get to fruition there when I was meandering.
Before we read a couple comments, if I could just say your vote matters. I just want you to know that. Like,
yeah,
it really, really does. And we see this in elections. We see it in everything. Your vote really does matter. And even if it's just a 10% market share of something being taken away one year and the next year it's more, it makes a difference. Mac, any comments stand out to you? Lots of good stuff in the chat.
Yeah, so Ishmael says that he thinks they have an effect, boycotts, but that it often isn't the one you want, or it's not short term. Because businesses will do what's best for the bottom line. And, 100% agree. Profit maximizing firms, a business gonna business. And Galvatron has some strong words for those people who were saying, talking about the no disc, no buy people. They forgot their anger real quick when Black Ops 1 and 2 and Black Flag Resynced released, and both were huge in digital sales hits.
It's a dang good point.
And yeah, and I mean, I don't disagree. A lot of people said that and then turned right around and caved pretty darn quickly. And I do think that goes to the point that there isn't an alternative for a game. Your choice is I go without or I have the art. And in a lot of ways, you don't have a good substitute. There are no perfect substitutions in the realm of art, and video gamers will always struggle to make a boycott work just because of lack of perfect substitutions and alternatives. People will cave a lot more frequently than we will stand firm, and that's a shame. But it's also a shame of the fact that every single studio is owned by the same three companies. Microsoft owns so much of the studios, Sony owns the remaining ones, and Nintendo has their in-house people. Anything mid-sized got bought up, and there's very few out there that are operating truly independently. So yeah, tough to make a principled stand with your money. But it is, like Lom said, very important to still pick these battles and to stand where you can, make your vote, whether with your wallet or in fact, and do the thing. It's not completely, it's not hopeless, but, it's easy to get discouraged.
Yeah, 100%. That's been our topic of the week.
Well, why don't we go ahead and turn to a crowdfunding project, Mr. Nice Guy, that's trying to get off the ground. And this, I promise you, is from something that is, shall we say, indie, perhaps, but it also might sound a little bit familiar. This is a project called Retro Game Forge, by the same people who did NES Maker. Now, we talked about that back when it was on Kickstarter. That would have been in episode 56. And the original software for NES Maker was $36 8 years ago. When you and I went to the Midwest Gaming Classic together, there was a whole section of the floor that was dedicated to just games made with NES Maker. And the guys who put that together were there. So what is Retro Game Forge then? This is sort of the realization of what they've learned over the past 8 years. Basically, they put together NES Maker as you could call it a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. A less trying to code the numbers and letters of assembly code, which is what NES games are programmed in, and something that had a more mapping and drag and drop type of functionality, something that worked a bit more like modern day programming for games. And they put that program together so that they could make their game Mystic Searches. And then they just improved and iterated upon that until they got it about as good as they could get it. But one of the things that was really difficult, insurmountable perhaps, was that from the ground up, NES Maker was designed to make a specific type of game, and then they bolted on a lot of things to make it so that you could do platformers and RPGs and other types of things. Well, with what they've learned, they are back with Retro Game Forge that is done the other way round. It's made to first function as a program to help you make a game for the system, and not so much something made to help you make a specific genre of game with all these different genre add-ons. But the thing that you do get as an add-on for this is that they can also do SNES programming as well.
Sure.
For Retro Game Forge. And, well, they are considering whether or not they'll be able to do a module for something like what I suspect will be the Sega Genesis next.
Sure.
All that is to say, if this sounds interesting $40 gets you the new software that just allows you to make NES games, which is just a few bucks more than what we paid for back in the NES makers days, or at least what I paid for. I did Kickstart it back then. And an extra $24 if you wanted to do both NES and SNES, so $64 if you wanted to be able to make games for both the NES and the Super Nintendo. And if you, unlike me, need, say, some flash cartridges, you could go for something like $128, which gives you the software, both of those, and a Wi-Fi enabled flash cartridge, so that you don't even need to pull your thing. You just Wi-Fi connect into the cartridge and load your new creation to play it on the hardware. Now, they had a $6,000 goal for Retro Game Forge. They blew well beyond that. It's just shy of 100,000 currently and still has 20 days to go. They have a big stretch goal at 128,000 of adding more consoles for it. So, and that is they're going to be working on, I believe, the Genesis. Like I said, that just makes sense in the progression of things, but I don't believe they've announced yet what the other modules are going to be, but my suspicion. So yeah, anyway, that is what we've got there. Nice Guy, you've had a chance to have a look about it. Oh, one last thing, the campaign closes in September. Beta access opens in October, and November the NES module gets released, and then by Christmas is when we're supposed to get the SNES module released for making those in the software. Yeah, Mr. Nice Guy, any thoughts?
So this is cool. So I've mentioned many times that I'm a huge fan of the Analog Pocket. For those who don't know, that's the new modern Game Boy with better pixels, and it plays a bunch of different stuff, and it has some cool features, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people underestimate how big of a community these retro games have, these retro consoles have.
Yeah.
People are making homebrew games for the old Game Boy all the time, and they're popular, and with the power of the internet, they're successful, and they're doing well, and so the idea that people can now purchase software that will allow them to do the same thing is a great idea. One thing I have a question about is the stretch goal. 128,000 and it adds another console. What happens to those who only pledged for the NES amount or the NES and SNES amount? Do they get grandfathered in? Do they have to give a few extra bucks to get that Sega thing? That's the only thing that I really dislike about stretch goals, is it kind of screws over people that have already pledged. Potentially. Maybe they say, hey, give us 10 more bucks and you get the stretch goal once that's hit. But other than that, I think a December release date is great. I think that the price point is very reasonable, considering that you can use this to make multiple games and you could easily make your money back if that's your goal. Or if it's a labor of love, you get something to play with. You get a new toy for $64. So I like it.
Yeah, me too. Obviously, the ability to program for just a few more dollars than it cost 8 years ago to have a better programming platform for NES, I think is probably well worth it. And then being able to tack on the Super Nintendo, yes, please and thank you. I would love if Genesis were an option. And yeah, now, Mr. Nice Guy, obviously, I do still hold to my code of needing a playable demo, and sadly, we don't really have that in this case, although they have taken this program out on the road for people to see and try. There are a lot of development logs and things where you can watch, where you can watch the lead here do a bunch of work in both making music for the Super Nintendo, designing levels, and so on. And so it does look pretty good. It looks like it will work. I kind of want to hold off personally, since I can't try any of it. I personally want to hold off for a little bit. Obviously, it has smashed its funding goal. I might hold off and buy it after it is released, rather than put the money down now. I do want them to do something for the Sega Genesis. But yeah, I do have to stick to it. Now, you could certainly argue that the playable demo is, the NES maker that I was so happy about, and I would say it's a completely different program. So I think I think I will be holding off. Although I do think it is worth kickstarting.
Wow. With no demo. I love it.
I don't know as I will be kickstarting it, but I think it's good. I think it's close. I just wish that I had something to try.
Yeah, I mean, I think kickstarting this, I vote to kickstart as well. It'll be super interesting to see what people come up with, particularly in the SNES space, as those games had an additional layer of complexity. You think about some of the RPGs and things that were available, it'll be cool to see. Well, now it's time for a segment we like to call Nerd Flex.
Oh, woo-hoo.
A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the host. Sometimes you do, sometimes you do not. If you're here live and you'd like to, please put a multiple choice gaming-related question in the chat. Mac and I will use nothing but our noggins to try to answer.
And Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Mac?
We got ourselves some sound test stuff to do today.
Ooh,
some
we
little
do.
bit of that. So we're saying goodbye to episode 347's sound test. And hello to 387. So remember, keep your ears open, listen, good luck, you'll need it. And on with the show.
All right, cool. So, first question. We're coming from the test bank. If you have questions, type those in now in the chat, please. But here's the first question. It's an FPS question, Mac. This is interesting. Doom takes its name from a line in which Tom Cruise movie? Doom takes its name from a line in which Tom Cruise movie? I did not know this.
Yeah.
This is awesome that we're going to find out.
I have no idea. I'm trying to think of Tom Cruise movies. The only thing that's coming to mind is Top Gun.
Based on year, what year did Doom come out?
Doom came out in the 90s, the early
yeah,
90s.
and Top Gun was like late 80s, right?
Yeah.
I think. Or early 90s, maybe? I don't know. I think it's late 80s. Other movies that could have come out around that time of Tom Cruise's, maybe like the very first Mission Impossible.
I feel like Mission Impossible occupies the same apartment complex in my brain as GoldenEye.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's mid-90s, so...
Yeah, GoldenEye was 96. So, all right, well, why don't we go Top Gun? I think that's as good a guess as any.
Let's do
it. Okay, it was a lesser-known movie, at least to me, called The Color of Money. I am not familiar with this
Never
movie
seen it.
at all.
Yeah.
But, dude, that's cool because I never knew that. I'm going to look into that some more. Awesome.
We've got a question from Galvatron in the chat, Mr. Nice Guy. NFL 2K5 was priced lower than Madden was in 2004. How much was it listed for? Was it $15, $20, $25, $30, $35, or $40?
In what year?
Love the multiple choices. In 2004, and it was priced lower than Madden. Assuming that Madden had the then standard, what? Was it $40 in the early 2000s?
I think then it was even 60. I think it was $59.99 at that point. Because I remember Tony Hawk being like 70 at one point. But then that was atrocious. But like the normal was $60.
Yeah.
I kind of want to guess 35.
Same. That was my inclination as well. I'll go with you on that. 35. All right, Galvatron, let us know. Because it can't possibly have been something like 25. That's ridiculous. Anything lower than 35, I can't countenance.
We may not get anything right today, dude. These are tough questions.
Indeed. All right. Galvatron has a side note. On a side note, NFL 2K5 sold so well and so damaged sales of Madden that EA panicked and negotiated an exclusive publishing agreement with the NFL the next year. Ever since 2005, EA Sports has exclusively held the NFL license and have renewed with the NFL multiple times. Galvatron says it's $20.
Wow, that's interesting.
Madness. Absolute insanity. Thanks for the question, Galvatron.
Mac, here's a question that I don't think either of us will know the answer to. This is from the test bank. What Roblox game did model Heidi Klum release in 2024? What Roblox game did she release in 2024? I don't play Roblox at all.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
For all of you screaming at your screens, apologies.
Yeah, I don't play Roblox.
Heidi Klum is a model, actress, both?
It says model.
Okay.
2024, so 2 years ago.
So here's what I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that she played to her strengths, her professional strengths. I'm sure she has many, but I'm going to guess she played to her professional strengths and made a Roblox game about modeling. So I think it's gonna be like a modeling simulator.
I'm
Roblox.
gonna assume, and I've actually never watched this show, but I'm gonna assume that she did something that's a play on words and released a game called Project Gunway.
Ooh.
That's a first-person shooter
Mm-hmm.
where you're a model with a gun,
Uh-huh.
and I don't even know where it goes from there, but I just think that would be hilarious.
Amazing. The sky's the limit, nice guy. I love this. I'm gonna stick with mine, but I love your reality more.
Project Gunway 2024. Let's see what the answer is. Hey, what did you say, Mac? Remind us.
Like a modeling sim?
Okay, apparently the game is called Modelverse.
Oh?
So I feel like maybe you at least get a half point for that. So we're not going 0 for 3 today.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a half point for that. That's nice. Thanks, Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, and that has been our Nerdflex for the week.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
As we know, I am not a lawyer, neither here nor in the country of China. But we are going to continue our little series on how China, or China's laws at least, are way more friendly to video gamers than the United States. And the last couple of times we've talked about widows, now let's talk about grieving parents. Bam, bam. So last year, a mother lost her son. And she then asked the game company, Changyu.com, to change the ownership on the 87 game accounts that belonged to her son over to her. Now, the company says, nope, the user agreement says these are limited right usage, non-inheritable, non-transferable after death, and so on. Well, the grieving mother does go to court, and the court first starts off by narrowing in on the nature of the law surrounding ownership of game accounts. And they say, it seems to us that game accounts, character data, virtual items, other in-game assets, these all constitute virtual property because they have value. In many cases, they are scarce as well. They have scarcity. This gives them an economic value. People would pay for it. This is a commonality that, Chinese law has been establishing and saying across all of these.
Sure.
And they do say that, however, according to the user agreement, ownership of the accounts and related data remains the stewardship of the game company. And the deceased has only possessed a lawful right of use. They use that term, right of use, or what we tend to call it over here in the United States, a license. We call it, you have a license to use the thing.
Sure.
Well, and so they said, yeah, this stuff is property, it's digital property, but you've only got the license. You don't have the property. But then the court says, all right, well, so we've established that these things are valuable, but they're part of a license, but can the license be inherited? And they held that although the game's account might be associated with the deceased's personal identity, it might be, maybe it's even part of their brand, who knows? But all that login and username attached stuff, all it really does service of is as a sort of identity management mechanism. The name on the account could be completely independent of the stuff inside the account. And so the court says there's nothing fundamentally personal about the game account. These things could exist amongst any game account. They could be traded between game accounts. So because there's nothing fundamentally personal about what is in the count, and it's just property, the interest of time, effort, financial resources, these aren't things that can be excluded from inheritance by its nature. If they were talking about things like personal communication logs, that's something uniquely personal, something that couldn't really be inherited, according to them.
Well, and super quickly, because this has come up with social media accounts as well, and for some reason I saw this recently. There are privacy issues that are argued, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree or disagree with them.
Sure.
But concerning DMs that are sent, concerning communications, concerning searches. And I think that's part of the reason for some of this controversy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, the court, took these ideas, right? And they're like, okay, it's property, but it's not a unique thing. It's not like a chat log, a privacy, a history thing like that. This is all stuff that could exist no matter what the name on the account was. So they said that nothing in the civil code in China, nor the user agreement, really could exclude inheritance from this right of use, from this license. And the standard form contract used by the company, the terms of service that we all click agree to and we never read and we just click through, that kind of thing in China.
Wait, you don't read those, Mac? You love reading long documents.
I do actually read these. I'm like one of the only people I know of who does.
That's what I thought. Yeah, just making
sure. But
sure.
I'm talking about the royal you, the royal we. But they do, in China, they say a specific, these types of contracts cannot override the rights that you're guaranteed. And these statutory inheritance rights can't be overridden by a, standard form contract. And it can't prevent the lawful successors from inheriting the rights to use the accounts. So as the game company was withholding these, these relevant accounts, the court ruled that they had an obligation to cooperate with the mother and transfer the limited but inherited rights, and updating the account information accordingly. So as of this last year in 2026, we have yet another win, if you will, for video gamers and digital property rights in China, of all places. So China to the rescue part 3, I guess, but that's been legalese for.
Super interesting. And yeah, the privacy thing, a very, very legitimate argument. But I also do believe that these have value, these accounts. Like, to say that they don't is just a misunderstanding, a fundamental misunderstanding.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I would disagree with the characterization of that the chat logs, the things like that are necessarily inherently inherently tied to you as a person. I think I would come down a different way, but I'm not the one who's in the judge's seat. But I do think overall, though, it's 2 steps forward, if maybe half a step back. So I'm excited by it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Before we go, we have one last segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool, nerdy stuff we've been into across all platforms, the stuff we've been reading. Let us know what you've been playing in the chat. And Mac, what you've been into the past couple weeks?
I haven't been watching and playing all that much stuff, but I have been watching Ted Lasso. I'm into Season 3. I'm almost finished with Season 3. I've been enjoying it so far, although I felt like 3 kind of suffers from some pacing problems. It doesn't feel anywhere near as tight as Seasons 1 and 2, but I am still enjoying it. As for playing, over the weekend I was traveling and I managed to play some Pump It Up in the arcade, which was really fun.
Nice.
I don't get to play it as much as I used to, especially not since my home version runs on my Xbox, and my original Xbox sadly gave up the ghost not that long ago. And also, a personal exciting thing. I completed an ASL, an American Sign Language 101 class, and I'm gearing up for the 102 class pretty soon. So,
well done.
So yeah. What about you, dude? What have you been up to?
So what have I been into, Mac? We talked about the theme of starting to play old stuff because it's like comfort food and it's just, what you're getting. So lots of the original Black Ops has been played this past week. Just doing search and destroy and having a blast with some people. And then finally hit platinum on Teamfight Tactics, climbing the ranked ladder and managed to get out of the gold tier. And I'm now into the platinum, which is a big deal for me. So I'm excited about that. Started reading Iron Gold, which is the 4th book in the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. The first 3 were just absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed the ending. I won't say anything else, but if you like the idea of like an uprising, space opera, very, very action-based audience, I think that you may like these books. Do your research, figure out if it's for you, but I'm on book 4 and thoroughly enjoying it. And hey, thank you everybody who's here live and or after the fact. We appreciate you hanging out with us, talking about games, talking about how they are affected by world events and how they affect our insights. Like, I think that's something we do that's very unique. So thank you for hanging out. We'll be back next week, same bat place, same bat time, same bat rhymes, twitch.tv/2nerds in a pod, and all podcast platforms. Keep it nerdy, y'all. Deuces.
See ya.